Everybody said that Jerry Michael Williams, known as Mike, had everything. He had a wonderful family he loved, a good job in real estate that gave them a nice house, and lots of great friends. Mike came from a simple family. His dad drove a bus and his mom worked at a daycare. They lived in a trailer, but his parents saved up to send Mike and his brother Nick to a good school, North Florida Christian High School. Mike did great in school. Besides studying, he worked night shifts at a convenience store to help his family. His friends said everyone liked Mike because he was super kind and real. If someone was bullying you, Mike would stand up for you like a big brother. He was always there to protect people. It didn't take long for teenage Mike to notice Denise Merrill. Mike played football, and Denise was a cheerleader. They worked together on the school council, too. Around this time, Mike met Brian Winchester, who quickly became his best friend. Brian's girlfriend, Kathy, hung out with them, and the two couples were super close. During school, Mike found a hobby he loved for life: duck hunting. His mom, Cheryl, said Mike loved being outside and hunting with his dad since he was about 6 years old. Mike, Denise, Brian, and Kathy graduated in 1988. Both couples got married in 1994 and stayed close. Denise became an accountant, Mike worked in real estate, and Brian sold insurance. Mike never shied away from hard work, and that stayed with him as an adult. He barely took days off, working 14 to 16 hours a day. He'd start work before the sun came up and sometimes only came home to eat dinner before going back. His boss said Mike was the hardest worker he'd ever seen. Once, he even took Mike's keys to the office so he couldn't work on weekends. In 1999, Denise and Mike had a baby girl named Ansley. Mike was thrilled but said, "She was due Tuesday, and she could have made me wait another year for Mother's Day, but she came early so I could celebrate with her today." It's amazing. I have so much respect for my wife and all women for what they go through to bring a new baby into the world. The family lived in a small but fancy neighborhood. When Mike's dad passed away, it hit him hard and made his bond with Ansley even more special. After this, Mike and Denise got a $1.5 million life insurance policy through Brian. They added 2 more policies, totaling almost $2 million. Mike said after losing his dad, he wanted to make sure his family would be okay if something bad happened to him. On Thursday, December 14th, 2000, Mike was spending a lot of time with his mom, helping her after his dad's death. He and Denise told Cheryl and Nick they wanted another baby soon. Mike was excited to give Ansley a sibling and always dreamed of a big family. They were also planning a cruise and looking forward to their 6th wedding anniversary in a couple of days. On Saturday, December 16th, 2000, just before sunrise, Mike packed his hunting stuff, hooked his boat to his truck, and drove about an hour to Lake Seminole, a place he loved to hunt ducks. By noon, Denise called her dad because Mike wasn't home yet. It was their 6th anniversary, and they had big plans to celebrate, so it was weird he wasn't back. Brian and Denise's dad drove to the lake, which is about 35 miles long. Mike only went to certain spots, so Brian said they should check those first. At 2:30 a.m., they found Mike's Ford Bronco near a remote boat launch. Then they found his boat in dark, swampy, shallow water with his shotgun and 2 life jackets inside. The engine wasn't on, but the boat still had gas, and Mike was gone. A helicopter and divers searched the water, but stormy weather and cold temperatures made it hard. After a few days, it seemed unlikely Mike was alive. The police thought it was a sad boating accident. Mike's boat probably hit a stump. He fell in, his waders filled with water, and he drowned. They thought alligators might have eaten his body since they couldn't find it. Brian, who hunted with Mike a lot, sadly agreed with this idea, but Cheryl didn't believe it. She asked an expert about the alligator theory, and they said alligators stop eating when the water gets too cold. Also, it was nearly impossible for an alligator to eat Mike and leave no trace of him or his clothes. Searchers spent 700 hours over 44 days looking, but found nothing. No clues, no leads, no evidence. The search was called off. 6 months later, like everything changed when a hat was found, floating in the water, followed by waders, a flashlight, a red jacket, and Mike's hunting license. These things had no damage, which was weird if an alligator had attacked him. His license was still readable and the flashlight worked, even after 6 months in swampy water. Everyone was shocked that after all that searching, these items were just there. Officer David Arnett said it looked strange right away. Mike's truck was at an undeveloped landing, meaning he'd have had to drag his boat through mud to reach the lake. Also, a bad storm should have pushed his boat to the eastern shore, but it was on the western shore. In Florida, you usually wait 5 years to declare someone dead, but 6 months after Mike went missing, Denise asked for a death certificate. Mike was declared dead with accidental drowning as the cause. Cheryl had no idea and refused to believe it. Denise told her that if she tried to start a criminal investigation, she'd lose access to her granddaughter, Ansley. According to friends, Denise stopped talking to Mike's family and kept Ansley away from them. But Denise's friends said she spent a lot of time talking to Ansley about what a great man her dad was. For Cheryl, losing her husband and son was hard enough, and losing her granddaughter was too much. She needed answers and kept pushing, which led to Mike's case being reopened in 2005. People in the community and those following the case started talking. Denise and Brian got married, which shocked many. Some had heard rumors of an affair between them for years, so Brian's divorce from Kathy and his proposal to Denise wasn't a total surprise. Kathy confirmed she knew something was going on between Brian and Denise for a long time. In 2008, the police started treating Mike's case as possible foul play. A news director, Jennifer Portman, read an article from Cheryl and felt the story didn't add up. She wrote many stories about Mike to bring attention back to his case. In 2011, Cheryl held a vigil for Mike, walking with signs to keep his memory alive. Meanwhile, the police were gathering evidence and looking into Brian and Denise for possible insurance fraud tied to Mike's life insurance money. Someone came forward saying they saw Brian at Lake Seminole that morning and picked him out in a lineup. As the investigation continued, Denise and Brian's marriage fell apart. They separated in 2012 and divorced in 2016. Things got ugly and Brian did something drastic. He hid in the back of Denise's car, and when she got in, he held her at gunpoint. She reported him to the police for armed kidnapping. During an interview, Denise described what happened. "I went to my car to go to work at FSU. I was on the phone with my sister and someone climbed out from the back. I didn't know who it was at first, but then I realized it was Brian. I was screaming. He grabbed my face hard, yelling and cursing, saying, 'Turn here!' He pulled out a gun, not a hunting gun, but one that could kill, and put it to my ribs. I was driving, and he was right behind me with the gun. He said he did this because I wouldn't answer his texts or calls. He wanted me to call off the divorce. We were there for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. I kept agreeing with him, saying I knew he loved me. He was upset about losing his son and me. I told him to change his life, and he started calming down, but the gun was still there. I kept asking why he was doing this, and he seemed to snap out of it." The officer saw the issues between them and brought up Mike's case, saying, "He wasn't going to kill himself. He was going to kill you, so you couldn't talk about what he did. I've been working on this for 15 years. He killed Mike for you because he wanted you. He buried Mike where no one could find him." Denise denied it, saying she didn't believe Brian would hurt her and that he was a Christian. She focused on getting a restraining order to keep her and Ansley safe. Soon after, Brian's actions in the car led to a breakthrough. After 16 years, the truth about Mike started coming out. Brian was set to go to trial but took a deal. If he told the truth about Mike, he'd get immunity and a reduced sentence of 20 years. Brian admitted he and Denise started an affair in 1997. They planned to kill Mike, stage it as an accident, take the insurance money, and live happily ever after. They wanted Ansley to be young enough not to remember her dad. They first picked December 9th, 2000 for the murder. Brian would take Mike hunting, push him overboard, and call it an accident. But Denise got cold feet and canceled. Later, she changed her mind, and December 16th was the new date. Brian said, We launched the boat like it was a normal hunting trip. The plan was for Mike to wear waders, so if he fell in, he'd sink. We got to the spot where his stuff was found. I got him to stand up and pushed him into the water. He got his jacket and waders off and was panicking. I was panicking too. I didn't know what to do, so I shot him. Brian dragged Mike's body to shore, put it in his car, and pushed the boat back into the water. He went home, got into bed with Kathy, who was asleep, and later bought a shovel at Walmart. He buried Mike in a remote area. Over the years, Denise barely mentioned Mike, acting like it never happened and denying any role in it. As their marriage fell apart, Brian got paranoid that Denise might turn him in. When he held her at gunpoint, he made her swear to keep their secret. The day after his confession, Brian told police where to find Mike's remains, at the end of Gardner Road in northern Lyon County, a quiet, remote spot just 5 miles from where Mike grew up. Special Agent Mark Perez said, "After years of interviews and investigation, we got a break. We now know Mike Williams was murdered. We found his remains through DNA analysis, and our focus is on bringing those responsible to justice." 5 months later, on Ansley's 19th birthday, police arrested Denise at her office. She was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and accessory after the fact. At her first court appearance, Denise was told the charges, all carrying life sentences. The judge said, "First-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and accessory after the fact are all crimes that can mean life in prison. For now, Miss Williams, you'll stay in jail with no bond." "The prosecutor, mister." Fruits said there was nothing else to do since she was being held without bond. The judge asked, "Miss Williams, do you have any questions?" She didn't, so the judge ended the hearing saying, "Thank you, Your Honor." Denise's lawyer said Brian was just an angry ex-husband who made up a story because his plea deal let him say anything without getting in trouble. They said, "Brian Winchester is serving 20 years in prison. It's crazy. You commit a murder and only get 20 years. We're going to fight this, and we'll win." He didn't flip. He made it all up. That's not the same as telling the truth, Brian, Cheryl, and Brian's ex-wife, Kathy, all spoke in court. Brian said, "The more time Denise and I spent together, the more we wanted to be together. We complained about Kathy and Mike, and it just got worse. It snowballed. We started talking about ways to be together. Denise didn't want a divorce because of how she was raised and her pride. She still wanted us to be together, so our options were limited. I'm not saying Denise planned it all, and I was just a dumb guy going along with it. I came up with ideas and planned things too. It was mutual. We wanted to be together and wouldn't let anything stop us." For a year and a half before Mike's death, we talked about different ways to make it happen. Kathy said, "Brian called me crying. He found out I was cheating on him with someone named Chuck. He told me about Mike. When they found Mike's remains, Brian said he and Denise planned it." Cheryl said, "When an article about Mike came out in the newspaper, Denise called me, furious. She told me and Nick to come to her house. We stood in her front yard. She didn't even invite us inside. She yelled, 'I don't want to hear Mike's name again. I don't want to see his picture in the paper or know anything about what you're doing. I have to move on with my life.' After 3 days of evidence, the jury made their decision. They said, in the case of Florida versus Denise Williams, we find her guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, guilty of first-degree murder, and guilty of accessory after the fact of first-degree murder. The verdict was signed and dated by the jury leader. In February 2019, Denise was sentenced to life in prison. Cheryl spoke to the judge saying, "For 17 years, I made phone calls, put up missing person signs, wrote notes in a book, and had friends post on social media to help find Mike. With friends' help, we raised money for billboards and ads in the Tallahassee Democrat and Twin City News, asking everyone to help. They told me Mike drowned and was eaten by alligators and there was no need to investigate. They laughed and called me crazy. Judge Hankinson, I'm a fighter, not a victim. I love Ansley, but Mike was my son. I was determined to find the truth. There's no guide for a mom whose child goes missing. I just did what God told me to do." Every night, I'll see my son holding onto a tree stump in Lake Seminole in the dark, knowing his best friend was trying to kill him. I hear him screaming for help, and I wasn't there. It'll haunt me forever. We're in this courtroom because of God, not me. I'm Mike's mom, and I did what God told me to do. My son's awful death demands justice. With Denise's sentencing, I believe justice is served. Thank you, Denise's team filed an appeal. In 2020, the judges agreed with her lawyers and threw out the murder conviction, saying the prosecution didn't prove she was a main part of the crime. But they kept the conspiracy to commit murder conviction, and Denise was sentenced to 30 years. She must serve 85% of that before she can ask for parole. Denise and Cheryl both gave statements. Brian can ask for parole in 2034 when he's 63. A funeral was finally held for Mike. Cheryl invited everyone, even Denise and Brian's family and friends. Cheryl said she puts a small ad in the paper every year for Ansley's birthday, hoping Ansley will see it and reach out, but she never gets a response. Ansley, who was only 18 months old when she lost her dad, feels like she's lost her mom too. She believes her mom is innocent, saying, "There's no way my mom would plan to kill my dad with Brian." She couldn't do that. Brian acted on his own. Cheryl Williams is an amazing woman who never gave up looking for answers about her son. She collected 27 pages of notes and evidence and wrote to Florida's governor every day for 9 years. She promised to keep going until someone listened. Mike Williams was a kind, hardworking man who everyone said loved his family more than anything. His life ended in a horrible, scary way, but after almost 20 years, his family made sure he got justice.